Although egg curries are quite popular in India because of the large number of vegetarians and the low cost, this is the type of curry you practically never see in a high-quality Indian restaurant or in the West. I was told that this dish became popularized at truck stops across India, where it would be served with chapati and slices of tomato, cucumber, and onion, so that it could be folded up into a sort of sloppy sandwich. This is probably the reason why you won't find it on the menu of high-class Indian restaurants, but it is a common home-style dish. 120 grams of Italian passata here. I've got a couple of tomatoes in it. And now that we have this, we'll set it aside and we begin grating the onions. These have to be actually grated. And this is what you want to end up with, about 100 grams of the pulp that's finely shredded, and of course you get this graveyard that looks like some kind of a vegetable massacre took place. This, you just scrape it off into a bowl, use it for something else. You can use it for making stocks or soups or something, grind it up further. It doesn't make any difference. We're not using the rest of this in the recipe. And now I'm going to grate the ginger next. Okay, I've got the cinnamon stick. This is real cinnamon, a few black peppercorns, a couple of small bay leaves, half a teaspoon of cumin seeds, 2 teaspoons of coriander seeds, half a dozen green cardamom pods, a tablespoon, 15 grams of grated ginger. I peeled it and grated it. This is garlic that's been finely chopped. If you can see that, it's not minced, it's not crushed, finely chopped. You don't want to use this garlic ginger paste crap that they sell in jars. If you want good quality, use fresh ingredients, cut it yourself. This is the tomatoes and a passata that was blended together. And the chili powder, I'm using this Indian Kashmiri chili, or Kashmiri mirch, as it's called. I like cooking this in coconut oil, but right now I can't get any, and what's even better is macadamia nut oil for this. You can use ghee, but I think this comes out better if you use macadamia nut oil. I have a pan heating here on a 7 out of 1 to 10, fairly hot. One of the keys to this is don't use a giant, large pan, because otherwise it's going to have, you need tons of oil in order to fill up. So I've got about a it's about a 2-liter pan, but it has very high sides. The surface area is about the size of your typical 1-liter pan, 1 quart. And to this I'm putting 60 milliliters of macadamia nut oil, which is, as you can see, plenty to cover the bottom of the pan. We have our hard-boiled eggs here. Some of them have an irregular surface, some of them are smooth. That's typical when you hard-boiled eggs. Put a knife through, poke them so that they're less likely to explode during the cooking process. And we want to get really nice color on these. A lot of people that make this, one of the problems they have is they rush this. They don't do it enough. They don't cook the eggs enough. We really want to develop some color and flavor on this. That's what it looks like after about 4 minutes. And it's important to move these fairly often. I mean, don't move them constantly or they'll never get a chance to brown on one side. But move them around quite a bit, because otherwise what will happen is they'll stick to the bottom of the pan and they'll break up. You also see you're developing a lot of fond here on the bottom. Now, a lot of cooks in India, what they do is they cook these eggs and then they discard this fond. They use separate oil for the rest of the curry. You know, the European way is that fond is where the flavor is, and this is the way that I'm going to go with this. I realize it's not traditional. Also, macadamia nut oil is not cheap, and I'm not about to waste it by throwing this out and starting all over again. Okay, finally, after about 8 minutes here, I'll show you, we got some really good color on these eggs. That's what we want to see, right? Now that I have removed the eggs from this, this is going to be very hot oil, I'm going to add all the seasonings. Bay leaf, coriander, black peppercorns, and of course, cardamom pods. So try to pick up a little bit of the fog. This isn't going to get cooked for more than about 15-20 seconds here before I'm going to cool this down. This is very hot. We don't want to burn these spices. Okay, this is the onions that were grated. I'm going to actually reduce the heat now from, it's been on 7 up till now, and now I'm reducing it down to 5. In fact, just a tiny bit under 5. You don't want to rush making a masala. Big mistake. Okay. Keep cooking this and stirring it. Yeah, about 2.5 and 3 minutes, something like that. We see this has turned rose-colored, darkened. It's starting to dry out. This is the point where you add the ginger and the garlic. Same heat, just below 5. After about 3 more minutes, now I'm going to add that passata and pureed tomato. Still the same heat, just under 5. I'm going to cook this slowly. As it comes to a simmer, you can add about 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, somewhere around there. You might need to taste it, but don't forget it's gonna be slightly different volume by the time you're finished. So you might need to adjust the salt again towards the end. But the salt now will help the tomatoes break down. It'll help make the masala. After about 5 more minutes, it starts to thicken up. Now I'm going to add the cachemiri merch, chili powder. The amount that you add, of course, will determine how hot it is. 1, 2, or 3 teaspoons, depending on how much you love hot food or hate hot food. If you really hate hot food, then only use, a pinch. If you want it super, super mild. But about 1.5, 2 teaspoons is fairly normal, medium. After about 20 minutes of cooking like this, you have quite a solid mass here. Very, very little moisture left in it, as you can see. Now I'm going to add 200 milliliters of water, about 7 ounces. Stir this up, and then it's going to go into, it's going to get blended and then pass through a sieve back to the pan. I can't stress enough how important it is to blend this thoroughly, because this is when you break up all the spices and you really flavor the curry. If you don't do a good job of blending here in this method, the curry won't have very much flavor. It'll just be hot tomato sauce basically. So you have to really put some effort into it. Spend a minute, minute and a half really blending it well, and then pass it through a sieve. Finally, when you think you got everything you can through it, clean off the spatula, scrape off the bottom, and return this to a simmer. By now, these eggs should have completely cooled off, so we're going to cut them in half and add them to the simmering curry. And now you can add fresh cilantro or methi, which is dried fenugreek leaves. I prefer the fenugreek approach, but to each their own. Okay. We've got it at a slow simmer. I've got the heat down to about 3. I'm going to cover this and let it cook like this for about 10 more minutes. Okay, time is up. What I've done is I've lifted the eggs out onto a separate plate. Now what I'm going to do, I know this is unorthodox, but it's going to work out well. I'm going to add a little bit of butter, maybe a tablespoon or so of butter, and pinch here, a teaspoon or so of dark brown sugar. And all it counts here is flavor. We're not interested in following rules. It also may need some more salt, so you're going to have to test it and see what the salt level is like. And then when you're happy with this, then pour it over the eggs.
The second volume of my cookbook is now available through Amazon and other booksellers. It covers the YouTube recipes from the last 8 months with more in-depth information. I received requests for the procedures on all recipes, and I've listened to you. Every recipe has step-by-step directions, and of course there are recipes that aren't on YouTube. But this is not just a recipe book. Far from it, as you can see from some of the topics scrolling by here. I'm certain that anyone who watches my channel and any serious cook will find this book a treasury of useful and new information you won't find anywhere else. If you want to know more about my adventures as a chef around the world and have some great laughs along the way, be sure to check out the video tour of my book, 40 Years in One Night. It's up on YouTube right now. Click the link.
Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.